Hi everyone, this is Kim C, and you're listening to the Year of Underrated Stephen King. This is a one-woman lecture-style podcast brought to you by a university fiction teacher who remains delightfully plugged into the writing of Stephen King. This little show of mine was born 4 years ago, and since then, I find I am the happiest version of self when there is a stack of highlighted, post-it covered pages full of Stephen King fiction glory to share with my students, all of you listening out there, and the occasional random stranger. Sadly, it has happened before at the grocery store. Not my finest moment, but they were pretty nice about it. Today, my constant reader interview guest of honor knows what it's like to be surrounded by maps, notes, interview transcripts, and pages upon pages of King research to extract some magic from the novels and the state of Maine. Miss Sharon Kitchens is a former Southern California girl who made her way east to Maine and has called it home for the last 2 decades. This year, she published the oh-so-helpful, charming, and compulsively readable title, Stephen King's Maine, A History and Guide, which was recently endorsed by Mr. King himself, so you know it's legit when Steve gives the green light. In this interview, Sharon really blazes some trails, my dudes. There are some answers I've never heard before, stories and characters I didn't know existed. This gal goes there. Her answers will definitely require some further research, some greater exploration, and I'm thrilled beyond thrilled to learn and build some brain muscle within the written King cosmos. Dearest listeners, Miss Sharon Kitchens is the kind of constant reader who makes my heart take flight. Knowledgeable, passionate, creative, and determined to make dedicated King material for those who love the state of Maine and those who love Stephen King stories. Please enjoy this lovely chat where 2 Stephen King queens set down their crowns for an hour of connection and celebration. Without any further delays, please welcome author Sharon Kitchens to the Year of Underrated Stephen King podcast. All right, ladies and gentlemen, it is a tremendous honor to introduce my guest today. This is Maine resident and Maine author of Stephen King's Maine, Sharon Kitchens. Welcome to the show, Sharon.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
I'm so excited. I'm full of joy with any Stephen King constant reader interview, but when it's a lady, I'm just saying, I'm extra jazzed. I am extra pumped up because we're the best. So
I love that. I love that so much.
From this Stephen King queen to you, a fellow Stephen King queen, I bend my crown. So welcome, Your Majesty. We are going to kick this interview off with our very first question, which is, how old were you when you read your very first Stephen King story, and which title was it?
Yeah, so I had to think about this because I actually talk about this when I go out into like libraries and places. So it was Salem's Lot, that I knew. I was probably 8 or 9. I thought I was older, but no, I think I was 8 or 9 because I was trying to think about what grade I was in. And I went into school early. So I think it was, I think probably. So what happened was my dad had like kind of one of those floor to ceiling, wall to wall bookcases. And I got my hands on, I think it was Truman Capote's In Cold Blood. Yeah, no, that was the first book I think that not that I ever read, but that was the first of his that I decided I would just, read. And then it was either that or it was The Onion Field by Joseph Wambaugh, which completely like traumatized me. Yeah. So, and then I made my way to Stephen King from there. So by the time I got to Salem's Lot, I was like, I can deal with vampires. And that's how it sort of started. Yeah. And then my dad was just sort of, well, this has already happened. So I'm going to just let this continue. And I was growing up, I was always at the library. I didn't actually own many books. I was just always going to and from the library with a big tote bag. Still what I do. I went today, same thing. And I just loved the armload of books. And I was reading biographies, not to overshare, totally oversharing, but I read biographies before that trip to my dad's bookcase. And after that, it was like, okay, I'm all about I'm all about Stephen King and all about these things. So yeah, the Salem's Lot, that was it.
What a precocious little angel. An old soul. Oh my goodness. That is amazing. I love that. I love the young kids who found King very early, but you were reading very mature stuff even before King. So it was welcome to the party at that point.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. And then really fell in love with his work when I read The Body. That was an early one too. And I just felt like here is this person he's an adult talking to kids about tough things because that is realistic. That is what happens. And I was not used to that. I was used to adults whispering in other rooms. So that really made an impression on me. And I was incredibly grateful and just, yeah. And then I just wanted to be part of the Losers Club. So yeah, fight the dancing clown. Yeah.
This leads to my next question. At this point in time, how many King titles have you read thus far on your journey? Are you someone who has read them all, or there's a couple, maybe a decade here or there, or a couple titles you just haven't reached yet?
I've read most of them. I can't think of one that I haven't read, but like I haven't read so much of the Bachman stuff. I'm just starting to read the Dark Tower series. It's funny, I didn't think I'd read Firestarter, which I read for this podcast. And then halfway through, I was like, oh no, I've totally read this. And I've seen the movie, like the first movie. So yeah, I think and then okay, I'll be honest. I just tried to read Sleeping Beauties and I did not love it, but I'm 100% going to go back to it. I think that was more just me because it could never be him. So yeah, yep.
I have not made it to Sleeping Beauties yet either, so you're all good in the neighborhood. I haven't read any Stephen King collaborative text yet. So if he's written with another person, I haven't made it yet.
Okay.
I'll get there. I'll get there in time.
Have you read the Gwendy?
No Gwendy yet, sadly.
Oh, okay.
I've heard good things, and I've heard there's a lot of Bangor in there, so it kind of makes me want to hit the gas on that. And it's funny you should mention that. I had a really awesome listener named Mac who sent me some hardcover copies of Gwendy, and they're stunning. They're from Cemetery Dance. So I really feel that needs to happen sooner rather than later.
Yeah, they're good. I'm a big fan of the first one especially, but yeah.
Okay, let me see here. I kind of want to jump right to the Firestarter question because I'm so excited that you brought it up. Firestarter, I'm a little bit obsessed. But this question is pretty new. It's always been in my mind, but it's very new in terms of the interviews. This question was kind of like a tree root from a different question. And the question it comes from is, which character from a past Stephen King novel would you like to give their own sequel or prequel extra content to? Very similar to Danny from Dr. Sleep, who is from The Shining. We also have Holly Gibney, who's got a whole series now. Is there anyone who you would give that content to? And then the second part to this question is my question for writers. And if you had the responsibility and the blessing from King to write the Firestarter sequel, what would you have happen? Where would you take Charlie?
Okay, yeah, 100%. Okay, so wait, I'm going to answer. So it was the standalone or sequel or prequel, right? So for me, it would be Detective Ralph Anderson from The Outsider. Yeah, I would love that. I would love a prequel because I just think he's such a great character and I want more. I'm like ravenous. Yes, I think that would be fascinating because there's a lot to him that I feel like, especially that whole thing with his mom. Do you remember? So that, and then I'm not like a big superhero person, but Superman and Batman, I can say yes to. So I was thinking for Firestarter, I would love to see Charlie go do a whole Superman Clark Kent type thing. So maybe she's a journalist, she's a writer, she's getting the truth out, she's, doing what she's doing for others in a similar kind of parallel sense, what she did for herself. And she's telling the story of like victims or survivors, I should say, and people. And yeah. And then at the same time, she's like going out and breathing fire, basically, So yeah, I think that would be what I would like to see.
Oh my God, my heart is so full just thinking about that. That's perfect. Because, yeah, she went to Rolling Stone at the end when she's 9. So making
Mhm.
her a journalist is perfect. That's just like such a perfect little
Yeah.
segue. She goes into that world. But then she's also a crime fighter, has to have the incognito.
Yeah, because I feel like sort of like part Lois Lane meets Nancy Drew, but like Lois Lane just never got the space that she deserved. So yeah, I think that could be really interesting.
I think you're dead right, not to go on a DC kick for a second, but Lois was always the love interest for Clark. And even though she was probably the best journalist at the Daily Planet, let's be
Yeah.
honest.
Hmm.
So great, Sharon. I love that.
Nice.
Okay, moving right along here. Oh, the fire starter question gives me life. I'm still buzzing. Let's talk about your favorite Stephen King villains. Tell me who is on the top shelf in terms of villains you really enjoy, respect, admire, etc.
Okay. I love the vampiric toads in rainy season. I just can't get enough. Do you know that story?
I don't know if I do. Jog my memory.
It's in Nightmares and Dreamscapes.
Okay.
Yeah, so not to ruin anything for anybody, but it takes place in Maine. So of course I'm partial to stories generally in Maine. And I can totally relate to there's a couple on the road, they're going to stay visiting a town, they have an apartment or no, it's a house. And the people in the local general store are like, you should probably leave and come back in a day. Just leave and come back. And they're like, no, no. And then they go off to like a clam shack and they get their stuff. And it's like the way he writes all is, of course, totally believable through that and like the characters and everything. And then there's a storm that night and it literally rains vampiric toads and it becomes a bloody mess. I'm not going to lie. But it is just, there is something, I love animals. I like vampires. And yeah, and there's just something about those vampiric toads. And then there's another one though that was it Bobsy? Do you remember that one that was a short story? I feel like it was called Bobsy, but I'm completely probably misrepresenting this.
I'm sure you're right. I'm just failing over
Or
here.
Popsy? Maybe it was Popsy. I'm sure like readers are like, oh my God, she's not getting this right. It was Popsy. That's what it was. And that was also in Nightmares and Dreamscapes. Yeah, and that was also really great. There's a kid and he's kidnapped. And anyway, let's just say that like I think it's his uncle or his grandfather swoops in and takes care of things. I feel like that's Popsy. So yeah. He's Popsy is like a creature, like a winged creature. So anyway, and then Annie Wilkes, Misery, I've got to go there. She is badass. That woman, I mean, she's got it all going on.
Right? Unhinged to the max.
And passion. She's got passion. She is 100% unhinged. I mean, like, yeah. I think also when I think about that, I can't help but think about like I haven't seen that many adaptations, but I've seen the Kathy Bates ones and huge fan of Kathy Bates in Dolores Claiborne and Jennifer Jason Leigh and the whole cast. But like, I think there's just also something that I can't get out of my head about watching Dolores Claiborne just inhabit Annie Wilkes in Misery. It's a thing of beauty. So those are my choices.
Those are awesome choices, Sharon. Oh my gosh, so good. The two Nightmares and Dreamscapes, it's so timely. I love when the universe works this way because I'm just finishing up You Like It Darker, had a ball, so fun. The very next title that is set to be read, it is on my nightstand now, is Nightmares and Dreamscapes. Perfect timing.
Yeah.
And then Annie is just unkillable. She's the best.
She's the best. But I think also his collections, I feel like people, obviously King readers are reading those, but the general public, I feel like they go more to the novels. And that's been my experience with people that I've met. It's the true fans who are really reading the collections. Not that they aren't, hugely popular, but I just think, I mean, he's such an amazing storyteller and writer, but some of those short stories are his best stories. He's so efficient with words. It just really, it shows his brilliance, I think. Yeah.
You're 100% correct. You're dead on. The majority of folks out there, yeah, I would still call them constant readers. I'm trying not to be snobby brew, but I think the majority of constant readers, they, like you said, head for the novels. I feel the short stories, they don't get a lot of love. They don't. So you're absolutely right. I feel we see the master's hand in the short story format.
Yeah.
My next question is in that same vein with what we were talking about. It's asking, do you have a Stephen King title that you really have noticed is so popular? Everybody loves this one, but it didn't do it for you, or you're not super crazy about it, and vice versa. What is one that you absolutely adore and treasure, but you feel nobody gives it the attention it deserves? It's very underrated. It's not recognized. Which titles fall into those categories?
Okay, so I'm going to upset you so much here. I did not love Firestarter. Obviously, it's good. And when I say I didn't love it, I'm talking about comparing with other King books. Do you know what I'm saying? Like comparing to just other books, it's outstanding, but it's not one of my favorite King books. And like I said, I think, when I realized I'd read it before, I think because maybe I needed more. I like when he digs into those crevices, and I didn't get that with this book. Do you know what I mean when I say that? I needed more. I needed it spread out. I didn't want it so rushed. And I kind of feel like, what was the one like with Billy Summers?
Yeah.
Then more like Billy Summers, where we get to kind of drag that story, not drag it out, but like expand it, sort of accordion. I think then I would have enjoyed it more because I really want to take my time with his work. I don't speed through his work. I do others. I mean, they can be page turners, but still the language he uses. But then a friend of mine loves Firestarter. And when I told her I did not love that book, she was just kind of didn't know what to do with me. She's like read a few King books and was just not happy with that. And I was like, I'm sorry. I'm like, I love how passionate people are though about King's work and protective of like what they love. But yeah, I think like titles that I love, but I've noticed not many readers feel the same way. I just recently read Fairy Tale, which came out in 2022, I think. Or maybe it was a little earlier, but around there. And it sat on my shelf for, a couple of years, kind of giving me the side eye. And then I finally read it because when I was working on the book, I was just so consumed with reading and rereading and rereading and rereading the main books, the main stories. So I just really couldn't take myself out of that and read something else. And so for me, have you read Fairy Tale?
I have.
Yeah. So that's one of my favorite. I love fairy tales. I love stories. And for me, it was sort of where he does something like what he did with 11/22/63, but even more so where it's not something you expected from him, I think, right? I had someone tell me that when I was working on the book, they thought 11/22/63 was the greatest romance novel they'd ever read. And I was like, I can totally see that. But Fairy Tale for me, I mean, again, love animals. Radar is the coolest dog ever. Charlie Reed is such a great character. There's so much depth to Howard Bowditch and that whole world he creates and how he creates. And I mean, I was just like, oh my God, like King is just such a genius. And I say this all the time. He is the greatest storyteller. He's an amazing writer, but it's his storytelling capability, right? And that was a thing of beauty. So I loved Fairy Tale so much.
Oh,
No, I don't hear other people raving about that, which could just be me missing that. But yeah, that's me.
so good. I need to add an addendum to my Firestarter love because I kind of agree with you. So when I say like I love Firestarter and I'm obsessed, It's the possibility of Charlie. Charlie as a character, it's a novel that because it ends the way it does, and there's so much mystery, that's what lights my fire, pun intended. But I agree with you, Sharon. Like, it's a fun, fine novel. But I'm with you. It's a chase novel. We don't get a lot of time for those expanded character moments. There's a lot of action sequences. So it's a very fun 80s jaunty father-daughter chase book. But I do agree with you. I would not put it in the top 15 for me. It's definitely one that is fun. But I lose my mind thinking about what could happen to Charlie.
Yeah.
That's the writer in me. That's the fiction teacher in me, is like, where are you guys going to take her story? What could possibly be the outcome? And that makes me nuts with excitement.
Yeah. You know, I think about, do you know the John Grisham book, The Pelican Brief?
Yes.
Okay. So I read John Grisham. I read like a bunch of his kind of early books, the ones he was putting out. I don't know, maybe he put him out in like the 90s or something. And then I didn't read him for a while. And then I started reading him again because I love the Camino Island series. But anyway, Pelican Brief to me is what I think Firestarter could be, in the way that you have this story that takes place over an abbreviated period of time, right? And it's a chase. And yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say like Darby Shaw, whatever, the university student, the law student, that her superpower is her intelligence, right? And the way that she speeds through the story, but you still get to know her and the characters around her. And like, there's, I don't know, it's more like you're on a journey watching, like you're on a road. Okay. I know. It's like you're on a road trip on like a back dirt road, and you're going and you're seeing all the scenery. Right. And then with Firestarter, it's like you're on the freeway and you're going like 85 miles an hour or something. And I don't know. I guess I wish Firestarter had those other scenes worked in, where we had like not just where they're at the lab, not just where he's finding his dead wife, which sucked, and not, you know what I mean? Not the intensity. You have a lovely dinner, or
You're right. Yeah. He needs to take his foot off the gas pedal.
yeah. But I'm sure there's a ton of people that would completely disagree with me, but yeah.
I have a feeling Firestarter has its fans for the father-daughter aspect, and I get that. I think the character bonds really, really cement, at least all of the constant readers I've talked to who are really intense Firestarter fans. It's that father-daughter bond that I get it. I get it. We can't touch that. You're going to love Andy and Charlie until the end of time. That's fine. That's totally good.
Yeah. Yeah.
I also wanted to follow up on what you said, because I think you're so correct. And my hypothesis is I think the people who are like cannot with the fairy tale, I think it needs some time. I really do. It was a COVID book. Yeah. It's so unique. It's so imaginative. It's sweet. It's hopeful. It's all good things. And I have a feeling the folks who are struggling with it, I think it just needs time in the cook pot. I'm really hoping that 5 years from now, fairy tale is going to have its day. I'm hoping.
That would be nice. Yeah. But it also is really so different from everything else he writes. But then when you get kind of halfway through it, I don't know, you've got that. But yeah, I hope so. I'm just so glad he wrote it. I love it. I love it.
I am also a fairy tale fan. That's, I think, how I got into fiction, was reading fairy tales as a kid, and then you go to the library and you find the adult versions of the fairy tales, and you're like, whoa, Disney lied to me.
Oh God, Disney lied. Disney definitely lied. Yeah, Hans Christian Andersen, just those stories. I would like to think that people are reading their children these fairy tales. I mean, some of them are obviously just for adults, but the idea of people thinking that Disney created these and those versions, yeah, some of them are dark. And that's what he gets. Yeah, so I love it. I think I've said I love it like 100 times. I think like and love it.
I'm with you. I have to record and edit these, and I'm like, why am I a broken record with the same dumb phrase? You're fine.
I'll just like marathon love Stephen King's work. 100%.
I'm with you. This next question is talking about the secondary King reading experience, or tertiary or quaternary. Is there a King title that you end up going to over and over again, or you've noticed that you've read it multiple times over your life? Or are you someone who reads a King title and you're like, I got too many other things and I've read it and I'm not returning?
I reread it, no lie, every few years.
Oh,
Yeah, because every time I read it, I find new things. Again, I was at a signing and I met this lovely, lovely couple. This was up in Bangor, and he was telling me how they had moved to Bangor to live in this old church. He was trying to tell me it was like featured in the book, not by name. They reference it. And ever since I had that experience, I now want to go back and just read it again because there's just so much depth. As I mentioned, I reread and reread and reread all the Maine stories when I was working on the book. I think that maybe Dolores Claiborne is another one that I would reread. A Girl Who Loves Tom Gordon. It just as the mood strikes. But it is definitely the one I go back to.
I reread it for only the second time last year, and it had been 10 years since I had read it. And wow, it is just incredible how you change through time and life. And
Yeah.
then when you come back to Derry and the Losers Club and you're there again and you're so correct. You see new things or you respond to characters differently. Sometimes a character that you used to absolutely love and adore, suddenly they're not in the spotlight for you anymore and you're focused on a different character. And it's just amazing. It's so incredible. And I've met so many constant readers who revisit it a lot. And it is one of those titles that keeps giving anytime you visit.
And I think you touched on something that's really key is I have read books by King that as I have experiences, I look at those books very differently. When you're reading a King book when you're 9 or 10 years old, and when you're reading it when you're in your 30s or 40s, it's just a completely different experience. So I've gone from identifying with the kids in it to identifying with the adults.
Yeah.
And that is like just kind of thinking about that. That's such a huge change, growth.
It is. When I first read it, I felt like Bill Denbrough and I could be best friends. I felt like he was me in boy form. And then this second time around, I want Mike Hanlon to be my best friend. Like, I want to go get some food in Derry and bring it to Mike's house because he's by himself reading through the history books of Derry and being the lighthouse keeper. And that's all I wanted to do was like go bring dinner to Mike's house.
Can we just go get some Chinese food with that man?
Yeah.
And then like hang out at the library? Oh my God, that would be the best. He's one of my favorite characters. I love him so much because he's a librarian, but that would be fantastic.
It's just wild how this time I was like, Bill who? I mean, I still love Bill so much, but I was like, oh, Mike's the star. Mike's the star right now. I've never loved Mike Hanlon more. So it's awesome. It's awesome to revisit that title and to learn where people gravitate to. Sometimes it's the geography of the place. Other times it's the kids, it's the adults, it's Bev, it's not Bev. It's great.
Yeah, for me, I think it was probably Beverly Marsh. That was who I wanted to be besties with. And then for a long time, Mike Hanlon. Yeah.
Oh, I get that. I'm with you. Okay. Let's go to the question asking about your favorite Stephen King couple, friendship, team, all three, neither, or who do you really love that's a pair or a group in the King universe?
Oh, that is a really good question. I think maybe, okay, so Holly and Detective Ralph Anderson.
Nice.
I think that's who I would pick. Again, I'm probably completely influenced by how much I love the adaptation of Outsider, but I think also, I mean, obviously the Losers Club. I feel like that's like the unspoken. They are the greatest team ever on the history of the planet. Yeah, I'm gonna go with that.
Oh, Sharon, you have provided some totally unique answers that I've never heard before, so I'm so thrilled.
Really?
Yeah, like some of these I've never heard, which I love. But I'm so thrilled that you enjoy Ralph and Holly together. They were so great.
I do. Well, there's just something about Ralph, I don't know, that just really, there's more and I want to dig. But I think also in Billy Summers, Alex Maxwell, yeah, those two are a fantastic pair. I really enjoyed them.
Me too.
Yeah, I think they've got to be up there for sure. That was such a good book too. That was another one that I feel like I read that right when it came out. I was mad about it. Absolutely loved it. And I just wasn't kind of getting the same enthusiasm from other people. And I'm just, okay.
I'm with you there. I don't get it. I cried with Billy Summers. I ugly
Oh,
cried with Billy Summers, and I was happy to do so because I loved the hell out of that book.
yeah.
I cannot sing its praises enough.
And also, yeah. And the Easter eggs in it, finding the connections to the outsider. I was just, yeah, that was awesome. We need another one. I feel like we definitely need something that is more attached to the outsider and Billy Summers. And oh my gosh, if King is listening to this, please for the love of everything, maybe like another Holly book, like Holly takes the lead. I loved the Holly book.
I'm in the middle of that one right now. I have a book club
Mm,
here in my town, and we are making our way through all the Holly Gibney books for the
nice.
first half of this year. So I'm in the middle of Holly, and it is good, Sharon. You
Good.
are right. It is so good.
Yeah.
Wow. I am really terrified at the same time because I knew people
Oh,
like Em and Rodney in school. So I'm really freaked out, but I'm excited to see how it develops.
I don't know how you're even doing this podcast and not just like, tucked away in the book, like turning pages as fast as you possibly can, because it is definitely one of those, like just one more page, just one more page. And then, okay, it's 11 o'clock at night, it's midnight. All right, that's fine. I just need to stay up and read it. But yeah.
You got it. It is so bingeable. It has been real hard just to put it down. Insanely difficult. And I love that feeling so much when King gives me that as a reader. It's a joy that is just, there are no words for how much I
Yeah,
appreciate it.
100%.
Speaking of Billy Summers, you've led me to a question that is also pretty new, and it was created after I read Billy Summers. Because, Sharon, a very funny thing happened to me after I finished. I realized I had a huge crush on him, and I had never in my life felt romantic attraction for a King character. So I wondered if other people had ever had that happen. So that's what this question is asking. Is there a King character who you might have had a little crush on?
I have to think about this. Ben Hanscom?
Oh, yay!
Yeah, I mean, I haven't had a crush on him, the adult, obviously, to be really clear about that situation, the adult version. But I think maybe him, there's just something kind of adorable about him. And he cares so much and he's so sweet. So yeah, I'll go with him.
That's a great choice. You would have a very nice date.
I could see us just sitting in some big old Victorian with gardens, and he'd done all this design work and so on and so forth. And we had this huge library, and yeah, his conversation, his sweetness, he makes such an effort and he's so kind. Yeah, Ben Hanscom.
Oh, great choice. It's true. Oh man, it would be hard not to fall in love with Ben immediately. Really difficult. Lovely answer. Such a great choice. Oh, I love that so much. Okay. Now you mentioned that you have recently began your Dark Tower journey, and I'm so excited for you. I'm actually not very far from where you are because I'm very new to the tower myself. I am just about to start book 5 later on this summer. I've never read it before, so I'm late to the party myself. And so I just wanted to ask, wherever you're currently at, what are your thoughts? What are your feelings? Where are you currently at in this first tower adventure?
I haven't read anything yet. I have literally got the Dark Tower sitting on the shelf, waiting for me to read. So that's going to happen probably this weekend.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so I haven't. That's sad, right? But I feel like, he talks about the innies and the outies of the constant readers. So I can't remember which one is which, but I've read so much of his stuff and just not gone to the Dark Tower series. And I think part of it is maybe because I thought if I start it, I'm going to become ravenous and like, not be able to do anything else and function in any way and just have to read them all. So I will have to get back to you on that. Yes.
I think that's great. And I also feel there's zero shame. There's zero shame about it. I felt the same when I first started, and I still feel bad even now. Like when we were in Bangor and I was talking to all the fans, and I was like, oh, guys, I haven't read that one. And I just get these wide eyes, and I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. I'm with you. I'm just excited for you because it is very cool. That's all I'll say. It is very unique. It's wow. And where I'm at, I just finished book 4, and it was so emotional in a beautiful way. I've taken like a year off to recover.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
Wizard and Glass is the 4th one, and it is often referred to as one of his greatest books ever and the best book of the Dark Tower. So there's a lot of treasure in there ahead for you. So I'm looking forward to what you think.
See, this is what's so fantastic about the King universe is, and I don't know that this exists with other authors, but I know that once I finish The Gunslinger, I can just email you and tell you what I think, and you'll give me your thoughts, and that will enrich that experience. I mean, that's what to me books are reading is such a rich experience on its own, but I love that about his work and what that brings.
Oh, yes, you are so correct. It is magical. And I think that's why I love King so much, is not only, like you mentioned, he's the greatest storyteller of our century, period, bottom line, the greatest ever. But the King community, when you read these stories, it becomes a language you speak. And then when you connect with others, you instantly speak this language. And that's human connection and friendship and bonding. And isn't that what life's about? I mean, there's nothing better.
I feel like we're all so grateful every time he puts another book out there, but it's more than that. We're so grateful that he has this childlike joy in what he does and he cares, but also that he and his wife Tabitha are such incredibly good people and do so many amazing things for others without ever wanting anyone to even know. They don't need any credit for it. They're these really good people, and there's this selflessness and just like the forwards in his books and the end notes and how he talks to us. And it's as if someone is sitting down with you and you're a child and they're telling you a story. And it's almost this familial relationship, even if you've never met him. And that's it's an intimate experience reading a King book in a way that I don't really feel like I have that intimacy with any other author.
Oh, well said. Well said. I agree. I've never found a community like this anywhere for someone who had the writing talent that he does. I think you get a lot of cult fans out there to authors who are like, okay, yeah, this was a fun book. And the other books are a little squidgy and not great. But your fans are very loyal for this trilogy or whatever it might be. But King is just internationally beloved, as he and Tabitha should be, for who they are as people in their communities, what they've done to invest in their communities and make it better.
Yeah.
Also, the generosity, it's like in their DNA. They just continue to give, to give, to give.
Yeah.
King could have stopped writing 20, 30 years ago, but he loves the craft so much that he just continues to stay plugged in and give to us. And I just shake my head. I definitely short circuit when I think about the brilliance.
The brilliance and the kindness and the humanity and he's accessible in a way that, I mean, not to go back, but John Grisham in a sense. But I'm just thinking during the pandemic, John Grisham, like some other people, they would read to you. They would invite you in ways that, so John Grisham had never seemed accessible to me ever. And all of a sudden he's sitting down in his backyard and he's showing you where he writes and he's showing you these places. And I don't know that King was doing anything like that, but King has just always been accessible. And it was almost as if, and I mean, he wasn't doing this, but it was almost as if Grisham was taking a page from King's book and saying, and as others were doing, and saying, we want to be more relatable. We want to be more supportive of the people who are buying our books and who are supporting us. And King's just always gotten that. I'm not sure if that makes entirely a lot of sense, but
it does. It does. There's a fun little anecdote about John Grisham and Steve. You probably have heard it, but it's still very fun. It was during COVID when I think they did a few YouTube things together.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they're buddies.
Oh my God, I had no idea. Okay.
They buddies. I mean,
Wow.
John Grisham, he did write The Firm, right? That is the guy?
Yeah.
My ducks are in a row. Cool. Yeah, they're friends. And so...
Wow, cool. Okay.
Yeah, John Grisham, when he wrote The Firm, because he used to be, as you know, a law student in between meeting the judge, and he wrote his first novel on a legal pad.
I did not know that, actually. That's really cool.
Yeah, he just had these legal notebooks, little lawyer, fresh out of law school, and he had this idea for The Firm. And so when it was published, it was like crazy success, and that's the early 90s. And I think Steve mailed him a handwritten note because he got to the New York Times bestsellers list, John Grisham. And Steve wrote him a note and said, "Welcome to the big leagues."
Awesome. You know who else? And I know that they also know each other. I don't know if they're friends, but Michael Connolly.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah, and the Lincoln Lawyer. He is somebody that for me comes close to King in that accessibility, just the way that he just seems like such a good person. And I've actually had the privilege of meeting people that worked with him, and they say he is the kindest human being, just the nicest. And the way he writes too, the way he writes Los Angeles, because I used to live there, I am madly in love with that. I read everything he puts out. I want to support everything he does because you want the best for these people. And that's another thing about the writing community at that level, that King is just so supportive of other people and they back to him. So we could just talk about, again, our love and our infatuation with that all day. So
I'm so happy to do so. I'm familiar with Connolly because my dad really likes Bosch a lot. And so you've inspired me to maybe wedge in one of his works in between King titles.
Okay, if you decide to read him, definitely email me and I'll make suggestions on where to start with that.
100%. Consider it done. I will not pass go without your advice.
Okay.
All right, Ms. Kitchens, we're going to talk about Stephen King endings. Because for a while there, I think this has kind of died out a little bit, maybe not so much, but in the 70s, 80s, 90s, the bigger King works that you could break your toe with, a lot of book reviewers said, oh, the man can't end books. And so that carried into the zeitgeist a little bit. And so a lot of constant readers say, no, it's never about the ending. It's always about the journey. So don't even focus on the ending. However, so with some of these longer works, I wanted to ask, was there ever a Stephen King ending that was unsatisfying, that it did sully the journey as a whole, or you've just always been able to compartmentalize the journey and the end? They don't necessarily correlate.
I don't think so. Maybe Under the Dome.
Yeah.
Maybe that one would come close, but that would be maybe the only one. Yeah. Yeah, I think that one.
I'm with you there. I'm 100% with you there. Yeah, that's the only one. I know a lot of constant readers have a problem with the ending to The Stand, with this part. I'm holding up my hand, if you remember. Quite literal Deus Ex Machina.
Okay.
So they had a problem with that.
Okay.
That one gets brought up a lot. But I think Under the Dome is probably a stronger case for an ending. I always, anytime I am faced with something that doesn't sit well with my readerly heart, I always do a fan fiction in my brain. Like, what would I change? What could I do to make this better? I think that Under the Dome should have ended tragically and mysteriously.
Oh, wait, also The Mist. The
Oh,
Mist.
good one.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, like, and he has even said that he wishes that he had written it the way that it was in the movie, where it didn't end well. But yeah, I don't know. The Mist, I did not personally have a problem with as much, but I know that was one that a lot of people did. Yeah,
I gotcha. Yeah. Now that I think about it, that one was a
yeah.
tricky one for sure. This next question, I think I know what you're going to say, but who knows? This is about Stephen King settings, a subject which you know very, very well. If you were called on the phone by Steve's team and they said, Sharon, we're really thrilled about this Firestarter sequel. We love what you're going to do with Charlie and her journalism and superhero career. We would like a draft in the next few weeks. And now you get to magically transport to a Stephen King setting to get this done. Where do you feel you would go to do that? It could be anywhere in Maine that you know so very well. It could be the Overlook before it went up in flames, Joyland, wherever you like.
Okay, so first of all, I love this question so much. I think this is such a brilliant question. Okay, so the Overlook would be too claustrophobic for me, I think. Ludlow is supremely creepy, so I'm going to go with a no on that. Derry, I'm on the fence about. Yes, if the loser clubs stayed on, if I could like bunk with Mike Hanlon, and just, yeah, we could do Chinese food and talk books late at night. I could definitely do that, which by the way feels like one of that Castle Rock series, that they did. It feels like something that would be there. I think Castle Rock for sure for me, which is probably what you expected. I'm trying to remember. I loved Joyland and I remember the story, but I don't remember. There's like a boarding house and then there's the amusement park. I think I'm gonna go with a no. No, I'm gonna go with Castle Rock for sure. Yeah, 100%. I want like an apartment over one of those shops on Main Street.
Oh, so cute.
Yeah, definitely. That's where I would be.
Oh, that's darling. And it's perfect. You could take a break, go get some lunch, go for a walk.
Yeah, at Nan's. I could go to Nan's and just get iced tea and like a tuna sandwich and just hang out there and write. Yeah, I'm sure the pie is good.
I think John Langan said Castle Rock too, so he will be close by.
Fantastic.
Walk around the park with John.
100%. I'm good with that. Yeah, we can share a booth and share and have some pie and yeah.
It was either Paul Tremblay. No, I don't remember. It's a little funky. Somebody, either Paul Tremblay or John said Castle Rock. So you're going to have some company.
I would be so happy because I want to talk to Paul Tremblay about that masterpiece that he just came out with, Horror Story. Yeah. Folks should read that. I'm just going to put that bulletin out to the world. I think everyone is reading it, actually.
I think you're right. I ordered a hardcover copy with the red pages. So it's staring at me. I'm going to try and make some room for it in my summer schedule because I'm so excited.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Our next question is heading into the category of film and television. What are some of your favorites for either one, film, TV? Which ones do you feel really got it right and you really enjoy watching?
Okay, that is so easy for me. It's the 1990 two-part series of It, starring Tim Curry, John Ritter, and Annette O'Toole. I adore them so much. That is like a childhood favorite. After that, Dolores Claiborne. I watched that not that long ago. I feel like it was one of those like winter day. So okay, it was a few months ago, but it was still this year. It was one of those winter days and I just popped some popcorn and started Dolores Claiborne and it's a masterpiece of acting. And then of course I loved The Outsider, the TV series adaptation. I thought that was brilliant. I don't actually know what King thinks about The Outsider now that I think about it. If he liked that, the TV adaptation. Do you know?
I think you loved it. Yeah, because Richard, is it Richard Price? That doesn't sound right in my mind, but he was one of the writers and showrunners for The Wire.
Oh, so good. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
he's a huge Wire fan, so I have a feeling he was thrilled.
Got it. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, because I know he loved Dolores Claiborne. How could you not love Dolores Claiborne? So,
I haven't read Dolores Claiborne yet.
Ooh,
I'm so excited, Sharon. I know. I'm so excited because I've heard the
yes.
movie is so good.
So good. Oh my God. Okay. So do you know how like when during the pandemic, oh, I don't know if you did this, but a bunch of people, you'd have these things where I would watch movies. I watched Raiders of the Lost Ark with a couple friends who we were all in different towns. I think
Yeah.
one of us was actually in a different state and we would do stuff like that. And I feel like that is one of those things where if you are watching it for the first time, you want to watch it with other people or, have the screen. There was Riley Sager did that. I think he did this during the pandemic. He did this with someone else where they would talk about a film and then everybody would watch it at the same time and then they would talk about it.
I love that.
You know what I'm talking? I think
Yeah.
I did that at one point. I watched Jaws and I watched something else that I'd seen before and it just made you feel like you were part of something. But I don't know, somehow there's a nostalgia attached to Dolores Claiborne, and I just feel it's one of those things that people want to share with you. But good luck, have fun, enjoy. I'm a little jealous because you get to read it for the first time. So
I'm going to be emailing you and
yeah,
bugging Sharon. I'm on chapter 13. What do I do with this?
bring it on. Bring it
Okay.
on.
So excited. Yeah, I think that would be, I might have to ask you back just to talk about Dolores when I get there, because we are two Stephen King queens who need to talk about another Stephen King queen. We just have to. We just have to.
I would welcome a conversation about Dolores Claiborne. I think that would be brilliant.
Hopefully, I can get that accomplished soon. My schedule is pretty booked, but you never know. Every now and again, I just sort of bulldoze everything and pull the title off the shelf. So it might be Dolores.
Oh gosh.
And I have you on speed dial.
Yes.
All right, we have just a few more. We are making our way to the end. And this question is in regards to non-Stephen King folk, because there are some out there, sadly. When you are having a conversation with someone who hasn't really read King, or they might be slightly older and they only associate him with horror, but they are wanting a path to start a Stephen King reading experience, what do you advise they take a look at first?
11/22/63.
Nice.
Because I think people are sort of shocked when they find out that he wrote that. Yeah.
Agree. Yeah, that one is a game changer for
Yeah.
readers and for him.
Yeah. Because that's something where if you enjoy historic fiction, but not horror or supernatural, I mean, yes, okay, there is a supernatural element to it, but I think that would be 11/22/63. And that gives you a taste for how he writes place and his character development and everything. So
Great selection. Okay, this next question is about the ladies, the Stephen King females. Do you have a favorite or favorites?
Dolores Claiborne,
Yay!
Beverly Marsh, Carrie White. Oh my God, Carrie is such a good book. That's another one I've read a bunch of times. Annie Wilkes, you got to include her. And Alice Maxwell from Billy Summer, because she's a treasure. She is a survivor with a lot of exclamation points behind that. And she's funny as hell. So yeah, her.
Oh, Sharon, I'm so glad you brought her name into this bunker with these gals, because you're right. And a lot of people haven't read Billy yet, and they need to, because she is such a powerhouse of a character.
Yeah, she's fantastic. And she brings something out in him. I don't know how he found her, but she's a treasure.
I know it
Yeah.
is. Oh God, it's really terrible, because she is, when we meet her in the story, she's a victim. It's really terrible. Through their journey together, there is that, it's not unrequited, it's just forbidden. There's a forbidden romance there
Yeah.
that I love, and it's done in such a delicate, subtle, beautiful way, but very, very powerful. Like, you can feel it. It's genius. But I really did want them to be together, Sharon. I don't know if you felt the same.
I didn't actually. I liked their relationship as it was, but because I think she has space to grow, but I don't know that I ever saw her as a victim. I only saw her as a survivor.
Yeah.
Really. I mean, yeah, I think she's an incredibly strong woman and she's resilient, smart, and I like her a lot. I'd like more of her in books. Maybe we could get like, that question that you asked me about if there could be a prequel or, yeah. So I think that I would love to see a sequel. I'd love to see something with her. Maybe her and Holly.
Oh, so good. I love these ideas. So good. Favorite Stephen King animals? Do you have a couple favorites in that category?
The vampiric toads. I love the vampiric toads.
So
Yeah,
cute.
I'm gonna give it all to them.
How awesome.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I'm going to email you the second I finish that story. It's going to be great. Two more questions. This one came from my reading of Under the Dome, which I read during COVID. Not the best choice. And Big Jim Runny made me
Ugh.
so, right?
Ugh.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh God, Sharon, I was so murderous with rage. I had to like do yoga every night just to calm down because I wanted to punch the wall. I
Oh,
hated this man so much. And so granted it was COVID and there was a whole lot of other things in that stressful situation, but this question is asking, have you ever hated or been so angry with a Stephen King character that you really probably would have liked to have thrown rocks, insert bodily harm of your choice? You would like to hurt them physically.
I don't think I could actually ever hurt anyone physically, to be frank, but John Rainbird, I would like to give him a really good talking to. That man needs some manners. Yeah. Let me put it that way.
Good choice.
Jim Rennie is an SOB for sure. He is the worst. Yeah, those two.
Nice choices. John Rainbird is he's got that like Captain Ahab thing from Moby Dick where he's in awe of Charlie, but he also wants to kill her. And
Yeah.
it's like, she's a child, you freak show. Like,
Yeah.
stop.
Oh, but then the shoes. I got to give it to him for the shoes. Like I'll let him own that, but wow. Yeah. And where does King come up with this stuff? But yeah.
$1 million question.
Yeah, for real.
He's this Native American psychopath with a shoe
God.
collection / fetish. It's wild.
Yeah.
If you had, well, you might already possess one of these treasures, but if not, if you had the ability to get one Stephen King title signed, which one would it be?
It. And I don't. I have nothing signed by him, but it would be it.
Oh, so good.
Yeah, that'd be the one.
What has been your reading copy? What does yours look like?
Yeah, so I have the big white paperback that's, 4 inches thick. And I've thought about getting an upgrade to a nice hardcover, but why? I love the paperback just fine and it fits. I can carry it with me. I can take it if I want, because that's what I do.
It's well lived and well loved.
Yeah, that's it. I get emotionally attached to objects, and that's one of them. So,
Wholeheartedly support. I actually have that exact same copy you're talking about, and that was the copy I used for my reread.
yeah.
There's something about the way you can hold it in your hands. I can move it. I can break the spine if I want to, because I have multiple copies.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that one.
I mean, with Carrie, so I have the paperback, just like the mass market paperback, because I was rereading. And then I have that beautiful, like just first edition hardcover. And then I have a first edition paperback. And that's where I stopped. And that's the only one that I'm not a collector, but I did do that with that book because it just meant so much to me getting my first book published. And so getting his first books. And Carrie was a book that I felt like I rediscovered when I was writing Stephen King's Maine. It goes back to what you were talking about earlier, where as you grow, as you mature and you have experiences, the writing in Carrie was just even so much richer. And so I feel really attached to that. I just am in awe that this was his first book. Such a good story. But I would want him to sign it.
Very nice. I read Carrie for the first time last November. My King journey has been very unorthodox, and so I finally read it, and wow, just wow. I agree. It's
Yeah.
so impressive for being the first one.
Mm-hmm.
Crazy impressive. My last question for Miss Sharon is, what are your top 5 Stephen King novels? You can definitely have more. We allow wiggle room on this interview. What allowed them to make your top shelf?
I have 4. I have so many, but 4. Carrie, because of what I just said. Salem's Lot, because it was the first one. Fairy Tale, like what we were talking about. And then It, again, which we've also kind of covered. So those would be the 4. Those are the ones that I think, I start thinking about his other books and there's just so many gems, but those are the 4.
Oh, awesome. Do you think the 5th is reserved for the mystery? You just haven't discovered it yet?
I don't know. It's sort of the rotating one.
Okay, that makes sense.
It might be because Billy Summers is so good, The Outsider's so good, but I feel like those are like the holy grail. Especially, I think Night Shift is brilliant. So if I was going to put a collection in there, or Nightmares and Dreamscapes, maybe Night Shift belongs in there too. That really is just some brilliance too. But I actually am not as familiar as I thought with the stories in Night Shift, because I was talking to somebody about the book and I didn't recognize a couple of the stories. So that's like when I need to go back and read more thoroughly. Yeah. But there's only so much, you know what I mean? Like he has so many
I
stories.
know.
So yeah.
I love this. I love that you have a solid 4, and then it's a little bit of a lazy Susan spinning for the 5th one. I love that. I think that's amazing. Miss Kitchens, we made it. Thank you so very much. At this time, can you let everybody know a little bit about your beautiful book and what you have going on the rest of the summer? Anything that you want to share in regards to what you're up to?
Sure. Yeah. So I actually just found out today from the History Press, which published Stephen King's Maine, A History and Guide, that I'm doing a second book with them. It's a true crime book. It's about a young woman who was killed in the 70s in Maine, and it's mostly written. That's going to be coming out next summer, but I'll spend the rest of this summer working, just editing that. But I have also started researching my third book, which I don't see anything after that necessarily, but the third book is back to Stephen King's land. Not geography, but it is Stephen King related and very personal. So that's going to be a big project. And also in between there, I'll have some lake swimming and baking and all those fun things. And some fun, really, really fun activities. And I'm so excited to participate in and so grateful because of the book. But yeah, so Stephen King's Maine History and Guide, it basically lays out, I've mapped out where I believe Castle Rock and Jerusalem's Lot, and Derry is essentially, it's a blueprint of Bangor, but I give more context with that, and Haven. And I have maps in there, including a detailed map for Lisbon Falls, which I believe is Castle Rock. And then I have a map of the route that Stephen King used to take when he was going to school, high school. And so people can get a real flavor, like kind of self-guided tour for those, and take a stroll down through Castle Rock, down Main Street in Lisbon Falls. I interviewed everyday people who embody kinds of people that King has written about. So for instance, I interviewed people in law enforcement, I interviewed journalists, I interviewed people who dig graves, including someone by hand, so on and so on and so on, and really got these micro histories from people within the communities of the places where he's spent time and that he's writing about. I focus not on any adaptations. I should be clear about that. It's really book focused. And then in the back, there's several itineraries in the back of the book. So if you are a fan of Stephen King and you're coming to Maine, you can go on, say, a tour, but then I tell you where the coffee and the donuts and maybe an art museum are and other things to do. Or if you're in Portland, here's this great ferry ride and some restaurants and what I love to eat, from them. And then also, by the way, within driving distance, if you have this much time, here are Stephen King activities you can do. So, and here's for all the bibliophiles, here are where the bookstores are and what they specialize in. And yeah, that's it in a nutshell.
I am so in love with this, Sharon. It is such a gorgeous celebration of the people, the communities, but also the stories and the history of King's life in this place. And I just, when I nerd out, that's when I go speechless. Like when I can't find words, it's because something is so good, my brain stops. And I feel like that's what's happening.
So sweet.
I'm such a fan. And thank you from my own heart, but the Constant Reader community for writing something that helps us connect deeper with each other and with this beautiful place.
Well, thanks for having me. This was fun. I love talking about King. Yeah. And it would be so much fun to go with you to get Chinese food with Mike Hanlon.
I mean, he would love us. We would have so much fun.
Oh my God, right?
I really feel we would make him smile because he's got a hard job, that Mike Hanlon, and we would definitely have the best time.
We could help sell books. That would be a real treat. Can you imagine?
My goodness. Yes.
Being let loose in the dairy library? Oh my God.
We could help shelve. We can bake stuff. We would make his life better. That just makes me so happy.
That movie theater?
Oh, the Aladdin?
Yeah. Yeah, we could definitely do that.
So good. This is what I live for. Just fan fictioning life with King stuff. It's my favorite thing. One of these days when I win the lottery, I'm going to go back up to Maine. You can let me know where there's a good spot. And we're going to do a writers group. And it's all going to be fan fiction. It'll be a contest. We're going to do maybe like 3 to 4 week writers group where we all live and it'll be like summer camp. But we each get a King town or scenario or character, and you have to write a sequel or prequel, and then we do a big contest at the end. We vote for our fate. That's like my dream.
Oh my God. Count me in.
So fun.
I love that. That sounds amazing. Can we have one of those things too where, see, I'm all about food. So can we we have like the group kitchen and we just, dinner together and drink wine or, non-alcoholic beverages and talk King, talk life. Cause I think it's also just so interesting when you talk to people who are King readers. Who are they? What are their lives about? What was their touchstone?
You got it. Oh yeah. The wine would be flowing. As would the food. Yeah, we would have teams. And so whatever team you're on, you're in charge of the meals certain days. I've nerded out so much to this.
Oh my gosh. Count me in. I get that. Yeah, I love it. Fantasyland, bring it on.
Absolutely. You are a shining example of why the King community is such a beautiful place to be and to be a part of. So thank you for just being you.
Thank you.
Yay, Sharon! Wasn't she wonderful, friends? Isn't everyone having a much brighter day because of Sharon? I know, me too. The best. Huge thank yous to Miss Kitchens for sitting down with me and bringing all the King joy to our chat session. I'm so grateful, and I can't wait to have her back because eventually my reading and film viewing of Dolores Claiborne will happen, and she will need to be here to help me process what happened on Little Tall Island. I will absolutely require her Jedi mastery. I foresee I'm going to need some assistance, and Miss Sharon is the go-to. Please visit the show note links to observe where you can get your hands on a copy of Sharon's book called Stephen King's Maine, A History and Guide. Oh, friends, I can't stop reading it. I have so many favorite chapters, places I actually got to visit when I went there. And it was Sharon who advised me to head to Nest in downtown Bangor, and that's where I got my really awesome blueberry smoothie. Sharon is the guru, I'm telling ya. Definitely get your hands on a copy. It is essential for all constant readers. Okay, listeners. Whew. Since I've returned home from Bangor, Mama has been busy. I know it's not necessarily apparent on this side on the year of underrated Stephen King. It's been a hot minute, but if you hop, skip, and jump on over to the Patreon called The Danse Macabre with Kim C., you will observe that I just completed several recordings over the last couple weeks, highlighting my thoughts on each story for King's brand new short story collection entitled You Like It Darker. Oh my god, guys. Wow, friends. Wow. I'm in love with it. What a terrifically strong array of stories. So many good things to say. So yes, if you have recently finished the collection, head over to patreon.com/dancewithkimc. That's dance with an S, if you please, and hang out with me for a little while. It's a totally exclusive space for Stephen King short stories, Stephen King females, and a whole lot less formal and very energetic Kim C. Lots of fun stuff over there. I highly recommend you check it out. Coming up next on the year of underrated Stephen King, our very next episode will be examining 2023's Holly. I just finished it, loved it, so impressed, lots to say, and my local book club just discussed it. So I got a focus group test reaction from a bunch of relatively new King readers. Guys, it was amazing. I'm super fresh with ideas and observations. I am ready to go. We will also have some additional constant reader interviews popping up this month, as well as, double fingers crossed right now, hoping for the end of the month to reveal my completion of Wolves of the Calla. I hope so. If not, it might be September. I don't want to jinx it. Let's just have hope for the end of August. But it's going to be epic. I can feel it. I'm a little nervous, but we're going to make it work. I'm so excited to get back to the quartet. It's been too long. Way too long. Okay, dear ones, I have work to do. And as much as I want to dally with everyone, I have to get back to it. As always, I so appreciate you listening. If you're new to the show and would like to say hello, please feel free to reach out on any of the socials. You can subscribe to the show on YouTube, or please feel free to email me at underratedsk@gmail.com. It would be great to know where you're writing from, your thoughts on King, your favorite novels, characters. I'm always available for a King chat with a show listener, and since I'm always grading students, I will respond to you promptly. Thank you so very much for listening. I hope wherever you are, you're enjoying summer however you can. Stay hydrated, stay in the shade, and I'll talk to you again really soon. Bye-bye.